two devastating attacks one night, both carried out by American veterans. New Orleans, Bourbon Street. A truck barrels through a crowd of New Year's revelers. Shamsuddin Jabbar, an Army veteran, kills 15 people and injures over 30 before police take him down. Hours later, Las Vegas. A Tesla Cybertruck explodes outside the Trump International Hotel. The driver, Matthew Leivelsberger, another veteran, dies in the blast, leaving 7 innocent bystanders wounded. These attacks weren't random. They were deliberate, calculated, and tied to something much bigger, because Jabbar and Leivelsberger aren't the only veterans behind domestic terror attacks. Fort Hood, Little Rock, Chattanooga. Time and again, we've seen this same disturbing pattern. Men who serve this country turning to violent extremism. Why are some veterans, our heroes, choosing a path of destruction? What's pushing them to radicalize? And most importantly, how do we stop it? Today, we're diving deep into this troubling phenomenon. We'll uncover the patterns, explore the root causes, and lay out the solutions that could prevent tragedies like these. Because this isn't just about 2 attacks, it's about understanding a crisis before it's too late. June 1st, 2009. Outside a military recruiting station in Little Rock, Arkansas, Abdul Hakim Mujahid Muhammad, formerly Carlos Bledsoe, steps out of his car and opens fire. 2 soldiers are hit. Private William Long is killed. Muhammad wasn't an active duty soldier, but he had served as a U.S. Army recruit before being discharged. After his time in the military, he converted to Islam, traveled to Yemen, and became radicalized. Authorities believe he received training and extremist indoctrination while abroad. In his own words, Muhammad admitted his motive was retaliation. He claimed the attack was payback for U.S. military actions in Muslim countries. What makes Little Rock so unsettling is that Muhammad's time in the military didn't prevent his radicalization. If anything, it may have accelerated it. His brief service, combined with his exposure to extremist ideology, turned him from a potential soldier into a domestic terrorist. This was one of our first wake-up calls. It revealed how someone inside the system, trained to protect, could become a deadly threat, and it forced us to confront a troubling question. How does someone go from serving their country to committing an atrocity like this? November 5th, 2009, Fort Hood, Texas. Chaos erupts. An Army psychiatrist, Major Nidal Hassan, pulls out a handgun and opens fire inside a crowded medical processing center. By the time he's stopped, 13 people are dead, and more than 30 are injured. Hassan's attack wasn't random. It was calculated, premeditated. For months, he'd been in contact with Anwar al-Awlaki, a leader of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Emails between the two show Hassan seeking justification for turning against his own. This was a deliberate act of terrorism, driven by Hassan's growing belief that U.S. military actions in Muslim countries were a war on Islam, a recurring theme in cases like these. This event devastated the military community. Someone once entrusted with the mental well-being of our troops weaponized that trust against the very people he served alongside. July 16th, 2015. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Another attack shakes the nation. A gunman opens fire at 2 military facilities, a recruiting center and a Navy Reserve Center, killing 5 U.S. servicemen and injuring several others. The perpetrator? Muhammad Yusuf Abdulaziz, a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Kuwait and a former Navy recruit. Abdulaziz didn't have direct ties to any terrorist group, but his writings and online activity revealed an obsession with extremist ideologies. His social media posts were laced with anger toward the U.S. military, and he'd even written about his struggles with faith and purpose. What makes Abdulaziz's case so troubling is the combination of internal and external factors. He struggled with depression and substance abuse, challenges common among veterans and recruits. But his growing fixation on extremist propaganda turned that personal turmoil into violence. In many ways, Chattanooga mirrored Little Rock and Fort Hood. Abdulaziz targeted his former brothers in arms. The same system that once trained him became his enemy, and like the others, his actions left a devastating question in their wake. Why are veterans turning against the country they once risked their lives to serve and protect? It's not a simple answer, but certain patterns emerge. These tragedies are rarely about just one factor. They're the result of a dangerous combination: untreated trauma, isolation, disillusionment, and deliberate exploitation by extremist groups. Many people are quick to point to the hidden scars veterans carry around. PTSD, depression, and anxiety are some of the most common, but far from the only, challenges they face. The trauma they experience during service often doesn't go away when the uniform comes off. Instead, it follows them, haunting them in their everyday lives. When veterans leave the military, they're not just leaving a job. They're leaving a way of life, a community, a sense of purpose, and a mission they believed in. Reintegration into civilian life is often described as one of the hardest transitions they'll ever face. Without that structure and camaraderie, many veterans feel like they've lost their anchor. They become isolated, disconnected from the world around them. And that isolation often feeds into feelings of resentment. Resentment toward the government, society, or even the military itself. And while there are programs designed to help, they're not enough. The VA system is overloaded, underfunded, and riddled with delays. Veterans seeking help are often left waiting, sometimes months, for treatment they desperately need. In those critical moments, their conditions can worsen, creating a sense of hopelessness. For some, that hopelessness becomes a breeding ground for anger and desperation. But there are thousands of veterans who live every single day with these issues, and they don't resort to violent extremism. So this is no excuse, something there's some deeper to discover. Extremist groups are far from passive in this. They actively target veterans. These groups know that veterans have skills, discipline, tactical training, and experience under pressure that can be weaponized. And through social media and encrypted platforms, recruiters can reach them directly. They twist legitimate frustrations, disillusionment with wars they fought in, anger at the government's failures, or feelings of betrayal, into something far more dangerous. They offer not just an explanation for those feelings, but a purpose to act on them. This is where ideology comes into play. For veterans like Nadel Hassan, who attacked Fort Hood, extremist rhetoric framed U.S. military actions as a war on Islam. For others, like Abdul Hakim Muhammad in Little Rock, the narrative of retaliation against the military became a driving force. In almost every case, there's a common thread: a belief that their service was betrayed, that what they fought for wasn't what they were told. That disillusionment, when combined with personal struggles and deliberate recruitment, can turn a veteran into an extremist. These aren't random acts. They're the result of a perfect storm: untreated trauma, feelings of isolation, disillusionment with the system, and targeted recruitment. And that storm doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's fueled by cracks in the very systems meant to support these veterans. If we don't address those cracks, we'll continue to see this pattern repeat itself. The question is, what can we do to stop it? Step 1. Disrupt recruitment. Extremist groups aren't just stumbling across veterans, they're actively hunting for them. Social media platforms and encrypted apps have become recruitment hubs where veterans are offered belonging, purpose, and an outlet for their anger. To combat this, we need to hold platforms accountable for hosting extremist content. Algorithms that amplify radical messages must be dismantled, and radical content targeting veterans must be investigated. Step 2. Build counter-extremism programs. To stop radicalization before it starts, we need programs tailored specifically for veterans. These initiatives should work proactively, reaching veterans before extremist recruiters do. This could mean community outreach programs that connect veterans to resources and support, mentorship networks that provide purpose and connection, or even partnerships with trusted veteran organizations to intervene when warning signs appear. counter extremism isn't just about telling someone to avoid the wrong path. It's about lighting the way to a better one. Step 3. Focus on early detection and intervention. Radicalization doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, with warning signs that often go unnoticed until it's too late. We need to train VA staff, military leaders, and community groups to recognize those signs. Changes in behavior, isolation, or sudden hostility toward past service can all be red flags. By identifying veterans at risk early, we can step in with support, whether that's mental health care, community reintegration, or simply someone to talk to. Step 4. Empower veterans as allies. Veterans themselves are one of the most powerful tools in combating extremism. Peer-led initiatives can help veterans support one another, offering guidance and understanding that no outsider can replicate. These connections can be life-saving, breaking the isolation and resentment that extremist recruiters prey on. Step 5. Rethink the cost of war. Here's a hard truth. Every war leaves scars, not just on the battlefield, but on the people who fight it. For decades, we've sent troops overseas, often for conflicts rooted in politics rather than clear national security threats. We need to ask ourselves tough questions. Is this war worth the trauma we're asking our men and women to endure? Or is it being fought to advance petty political agendas? Our veterans deserve better, and the first step to ensuring that is awareness. So if this video made you think or helped you see this issue in a new way, hit that like button. It helps more people find this message. And if you want to dive deeper into issues like this, subscribe to the channel and join the conversation. Together, we can work toward a future where these tragedies become a thing of the past.